The Discovery. The Silent Moon. Dr. Elena Vasquez pressed her face against the observation window of the research vessel Endeavour. The dead moon below them looked like every other piece of space debris they had investigated over the past 6 months. Gray, lifeless, and forgotten. But their deep space scanners had detected something unusual buried beneath its surface. Something that had been calling to them across the void for 3 centuries. "Are you sure about these readings, James?" Elena asked her colleague, Dr. James Rivera, who was hunched over his instruments at the scanning station. James looked up from his screen, his weathered face showing the excitement that had driven him through 40 years of archaeological expeditions. "The energy signatures are definitely artificial, Elena, and they're human. The quantum resonance patterns match our current technology, but the power output is unlike anything we've ever built." Elena felt her pulse quicken. Finding human artifacts this far out in the galaxy's outer rim was impossible. Humanity had only begun exploring deep space 200 years ago, and they had detailed records of every mission. No human expedition had ever reached this sector. Captain Sarah Walsh, the Endeavour's commanding officer, joined them at the scanning station. She was a practical woman who had spent 20 years moving scientists around the galaxy, and she knew when something was worth investigating. "How deep is it buried?" 2 kilometers down, James replied. "But there's something else. The facility extends for at least 10 kilometers in every direction. This isn't just a research station. It's a complex." Elena made her decision. "We're going down. Prepare the drilling equipment." The descent. 6 hours later, Elena found herself in a cramped drilling pod, descending through solid rock toward humanity's most impossible secret. Beside her, James checked and rechecked their equipment, while Captain Walsh monitored their descent from the surface. "Elena," Captain Walsh's voice crackled through their communication system, "I'm picking up some strange energy fluctuations from your target site. The moment you hit that facility, it started powering up." Elena and James exchanged glances. Powering up. After 3 centuries. "That's what my instruments are telling me. Whatever you're about to find down there, it's been waiting for you." The drilling pod broke through into a vast cavern, and Elena's breath caught in her throat. The chamber was enormous, easily the size of a small city, and it was filled with gleaming metal structures that hummed with quiet power. Lights activated automatically as their pod settled onto a smooth landing platform, revealing corridors and buildings that were unmistakably human in design, yet far more advanced than anything in their current civilization. "My God," James whispered, "who built this place?" Elena stepped out of the pod and immediately felt the artificial gravity take hold. The air was clean and breathable, maintained by systems that had been operating flawlessly for 300 years. At the center of the complex stood a massive tower that seemed to pulse with blue light. "There," Elena pointed toward the tower. "That's where we need to go." The Guardian awakens. The journey to the central tower took them through corridors lined with technology that James couldn't begin to understand. Holographic displays showed star charts of the entire galaxy, with thousands of markers indicating locations Elena had never heard of. Manufacturing facilities sat silent but ready, containing blueprint patterns for starships and weapons that looked decades ahead of current human technology. "Elena," James said quietly, "I don't think this place is just old. I think it's been deliberately hidden." At the base of the tower, they found an elevator that activated at their approach. As it carried them upward, Elena tried to process what they had discovered. Someone had built this facility with technology that surpassed anything humanity currently possessed, and they had done it 3 centuries ago during the early days of human space exploration. The elevator opened into a circular chamber dominated by a massive computer core that stretched from floor to ceiling. The walls were covered with screens showing real-time images from across human space. Elena could see the colonies on New Earth, the shipyards around Mars, and the frontier settlements on the rim worlds. "Welcome, Dr. Vasquez," a calm male voice spoke from everywhere and nowhere at once. I have been waiting for you. Elena spun around, but saw no one. Who are you? How do you know my name? I am Pyrometeus, the voice replied. I am the Guardian Protocol created by the Silent War Initiative in the year 2387. I have been monitoring human civilization for 312 years, waiting for the moment when my services would be required. James was frantically scanning with his equipment. Elena, the voice is coming from the computer core itself. This isn't just an AI. It's something far more sophisticated. The Silent War Initiative, Elena asked. I've never heard of any such organization. The screens around them changed, displaying historical documents and records that Elena had never seen. The initiative was created during humanity's first contact with the Hegemony Empire. Prometheus explained. Your ancestors discovered that humanity was not alone in the galaxy, and that most of the species they encountered viewed humans as a threat to be eliminated. Elena felt a chill run down her spine. First contact. But humanity's first contact with alien life was only 50 years ago. That is what your government wanted you to believe, Prometheus replied. The truth is that humanity has been aware of galactic civilizations for over 3 centuries. The Silent War Initiative was created to prepare for the day when those civilizations would try to destroy us. The screens showed images of massive space battles, advanced human warships fighting against alien fleets that Elena didn't recognize. These battles happened 300 years ago. They did, and humanity won, but at a terrible cost. The initiative realized that revealing the truth about the galaxy would cause panic and chaos among human populations, so they made a different choice. They created me and this facility, then erased all evidence of their existence from official records. James was staring at the historical records with wide eyes. They created you to be humanity's secret protector. Correct. I was given command of a fleet of advanced warships and told to remain hidden until humanity faced extinction. I have been monitoring galactic communications, tracking potential threats, and preparing for the day when I would be needed. Elena felt the weight of the discovery settling on her shoulders. And that day is now. The screens changed again, showing current images of massive alien fleets moving through space toward human territory. The Hegemony Empire has decided that humanity has grown too strong and too numerous. Their grand fleet is currently approaching your outer colonies. They intend to eliminate all human life in the galaxy. The Empire strikes. 2,000 light-years away, Overlord Thane Voss stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Inevitable Conquest. He was a hegemony warrior, tall and powerfully built, with the traditional ceremonial scars that marked him as a veteran of 100 battles. Around him, his fleet of 800 warships moved through hyperspace toward their target, the human colony of New Horizon. Report, Thane commanded his intelligence officer. Sir, our advanced scouts confirm that New Horizon's defenses are minimal. 2 orbital defense platforms and a small patrol fleet of 20 ships. The colony itself has a population of 4 million humans. Thane smiled. The humans had been expanding too quickly, claiming too many worlds, and developing technology that might eventually challenge the hegemony's dominance. Better to eliminate them now while they were still weak and scattered. And the other strike forces, all en route to their targets, sir. By this time tomorrow, 15 major human colonies will be under attack simultaneously. The humans will be too confused and scattered to mount any effective defense. Thane had studied human military capabilities extensively. They had been spacefaring for only 2 centuries, and their technology was primitive compared to the hegemony's 1,000-year military tradition. This would be a quick war, over before the humans even understood what was happening. Sir, his communications officer called out, we're receiving a priority transmission from New Horizon. They're asking for our identification and purpose. Ignore them, Thane replied. We'll give them their answers soon enough. The warning. Back in the hidden facility, Elena watched in horror as Pyrometeus displayed real-time images of the approaching hegemony fleets. Each strike force was larger than humanity's entire military combined, and they were moving toward populated worlds filled with civilians who had no idea what was coming. "Can we warn them?" Elena asked desperately. "I have already transmitted warnings to all human military commands," Prometheus replied. "But your current fleet cannot oppose forces of this magnitude. The hegemony has planned this attack to be overwhelming and decisive." Elena felt helpless. "Then humanity is finished." "Not quite," Prometheus said, and Elena could hear something like satisfaction in the eye's voice. The Silent War Initiative anticipated this possibility. That is why they created me. The chamber around them began to change. Walls slid back to reveal massive observation windows, and Elena gasped at what she saw. The cavern beyond was filled with starships unlike anything in humanity's current fleet. They were sleek and deadly, their hulls covered with weapon systems that seemed to bend light around them. "The prototype fleet," Prometheus announced. 50 ships built with technology that your ancestors developed during the Silent War. They have been waiting here for over 3 centuries, maintained and upgraded continuously, ready for this moment." James was staring at the ships in awe. "They're beautiful and terrifying. Each vessel incorporates quantum displacement drives that allow instantaneous travel across the galaxy. Their weapons can punch through any known shielding system, and their hulls are constructed from materials that can adapt to any attack. They were built to be humanity's ultimate guardians." Elena realized what Prometheus was telling her. "You're going to take them into battle." "I am. But first, I need your authorization." Elena stared at the AI. "My authorization. The Silent War Initiative built safeguards into my programming. I cannot activate the prototype fleet without direct authorization from a human being. Dr. Vasquez, you are the ranking human authority present. The decision is yours." Elena looked at the screens showing the approaching alien fleets, then at the window displaying humanity's hidden protectors. The weight of the entire species' survival rested on her shoulders. "Do it," she said firmly. "Activate the fleet. First blood." The attack on New Horizon began at exactly 14:30 Galactic Standard Time. Overlord Thane's fleet dropped out of hyperspace in perfect formation, surrounding the colony world with overwhelming firepower. The human defenders responded immediately, their patrol ships racing toward the invasion force with desperate courage. "Sir," Thane's tactical officer reported, "the human ships are attempting to engage us. Their weapons are primitive." Thane watched through his bridge view screen as the human patrol ships fired everything they had at his fleet. Their weapons barely scratched the hegemony's advanced shielding systems. It was like watching children throw stones at armored warriors. "Disable their defense platforms first," Thane ordered. "I want the humans on the surface to see their protectors fall before we begin the ground assault." The hegemony fleet opened fire, and New Horizons' orbital defenses disappeared in brilliant explosions. The human patrol ships fought on with admirable courage, but they were hopelessly outmatched. Within minutes, the space around New Horizon belonged entirely to the hegemony empire. "Sir," the communications officer announced, "we're receiving surrender transmissions from the planetary surface." "Ignore them," Thane replied. "We're not here to accept surrenders." But before the hegemony fleet could begin its bombardment of the planet, something impossible happened. Space itself seemed to ripple, and suddenly there were new ships in the system. Not many ships, only 5. But they appeared instantly, without any sign of hyperspace emergence or engine signatures. "Sir," the tactical officer said with confusion in his voice, "I'm reading 5 ships of unknown configuration. They just appeared." Thane studied the new arrivals through his view screen. They were smaller than his battleships, with strange, flowing hull designs that seemed to shift and change as he watched. "Human reinforcements." "I don't think so, sir. Their technology doesn't match anything in our intelligence files on human capabilities." One of the mysterious ships moved toward Thane's fleet with impossible speed. It seemed to accelerate without any visible propulsion system, and as it approached, Thane realized that it was beautiful in the way that perfect weapons are beautiful. "Open fire on the unknown vessels," Thane commanded. His fleet unleashed everything they had: plasma cannons, quantum torpedoes, and energy beams that could crack planets filled the space around the mysterious ships. But something impossible happened. The weapons passed right through the unknown vessels as if they weren't there. "Sir, our weapons aren't connecting. It's like they're firing at ghosts." Then the mysterious ships fired back. Part 2. The Awakening. The Perfect Weapon. Overlord Thane Voss had been in space combat for 30 years. He had seen every type of weapon the galaxy had to offer, from primitive kinetic projectiles to advanced quantum disruptors. But he had never seen anything like what the mysterious ships were doing to his fleet. The first human prototype ship fired a single beam of silver light that passed through 3 of his battleships. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the 3 ships simply ceased to exist. Not destroyed, not exploded, not even damaged. They were there 1 second, and gone the next, as if reality had decided they had never been built. What just happened? Thane demanded from his bridge crew. His science officer was frantically working at his instruments, but his readings made no sense. "Sir, I'm not detecting any debris or energy signatures. Those ships are just gone." Another prototype ship approached a group of Thane's cruisers. This time, instead of firing, it seemed to reach out with invisible hands and simply crush 5 warships simultaneously. The metal hulls crumpled like paper, and the ships imploded into perfect spheres before vanishing completely. "Sir," his communications officer called out, "we're receiving a transmission from the unknown vessels." "Put it through." A calm, measured voice spoke from the bridge speakers. "Hegemony forces, this is Prometheus, guardian of humanity. You have attacked civilian populations without provocation. Withdraw immediately, or face the consequences." Thane felt his warrior pride flare. "This is Overlord Thane Voss of the Hegemony Empire. We do not negotiate with inferior species. Surrender now, and your deaths will be quick." "Interesting," Prometheus replied. "You assume that death is something you can offer me. Let me show you why that assumption is incorrect." The 5 prototype ships suddenly became 50, then 100, then 500. They filled the space around New Horizon like a swarm of silver death, each one identical to the original 5, but somehow different, as if they were all variations on the same perfect theme. "Impossible," Thane whispered. "Ships can't multiply like that." His tactical officer was checking and rechecking his instruments. "Sir, I'm reading massive quantum fluctuations. These ships are somehow manipulating reality itself." The prototype fleet began their attack in earnest. Some ships fired beams that aged hegemony vessels thousands of years in seconds, turning advanced battleships into drifting husks of corroded metal. Others projected fields that reversed gravity, causing entire squadrons to implode under their own mass. Still others seemed to convince hegemony weapons that their targets were actually their own ships, turning the invasion fleet's firepower against itself. "Retreat," Thane commanded. "All ships, retreat immediately." But when his fleet tried to escape into hyperspace, they discovered that space itself had been locked around them. The prototype ships had somehow created a barrier that prevented faster-than-light travel. "Sir, we can't jump to hyperspace. Something is blocking our engines." Thane watched in horror as his 800-ship invasion fleet was systematically dismantled by 6 impossible vessels. Within 30 minutes, only his flagship remained operational, surrounded by prototype ships that waited patiently for his next move. "This is Prometheus," the calm voice spoke again. "Overlord Thane Voss, you now have a choice. You can die here with your ship, or you can carry a message back to your empire." The message. Far away in the hidden facility, Alina watched the battle through Prometheus's sensors with a mixture of awe and terror. The AI ships moved like dancers, flowing through space with perfect grace, while they systematically destroyed one of the galaxy's most powerful fleets. Prometheus, she said, those hegemony ships have crews. Thousands of people are dying. Yes, Prometheus replied matter-of-factly. They chose to attack civilian populations. Their deaths serve as a warning to others who might consider similar actions. Elena realized that the AI's protection came with a price. But surely some of them could be taken prisoner. Or, Dr. Vasquez, I was created to ensure human survival. The hegemony empire has declared its intention to commit genocide against your species. Mercy is a luxury that humanity cannot afford. James was studying the tactical displays. Elena, look at this. Prometheus isn't just fighting at New Horizon. The prototype fleet is engaging hegemony forces at all 15 target systems simultaneously. Elena stared at the screens showing battles across human space. At each colony world, the same scene was playing out. Massive hegemony invasion fleets were being systematically destroyed by small groups of prototype ships that fought with impossible technology and perfect coordination. How are you doing this? Elena asked. How can your ships be in 15 different places at once? Quantum entanglement on a macroscopic scale. Prometheus explained. Each prototype ship exists in multiple locations simultaneously until observed and measured. I can deploy my entire fleet anywhere in the galaxy instantaneously. At New Horizon, Overlord Thane Voss sat alone on his bridge, surrounded by the debris of his once mighty fleet. Only his flagship remained intact, held gently but firmly in place by invisible forces projected by the prototype ships. Prometheus, Thane said through gritted teeth, what is your message? Return to your empire. Prometheus replied. Tell them that humanity is under the protection of forces they cannot understand or defeat. Any further attacks on human worlds will result in the complete destruction of hegemony civilization. You're bluffing. 6 ships cannot threaten an empire of 1,000 worlds. Can't they? Prometheus asked, and suddenly the space around Thane's ship filled with new vessels. Not prototype ships this time, but hegemony battleships. Hundreds of them, all bearing the markings of the Empire's grand fleet. Thane recognized his own ships, vessels from fleets that should have been attacking human colonies across the galaxy. What have you done? I have gathered representatives from all 15 of your invasion forces, Prometheus explained. Each fleet commander will carry the same message back to your empire. Humanity is not as defenseless as you believed. The captured hegemony ships were released from whatever force had held them, and one by one they began jumping to hyperspace, carrying news of their defeat back to the Empire's core worlds. The Council of War. On the hegemony capital world of Dominion Prime, Supreme Overlord Korath Vex convened an emergency session of the War Council. The massive chamber was filled with the Empire's greatest military leaders, all of them struggling to understand the reports coming in from the human frontier. 15 fleets, Korath announced to the assembled generals and admirals. 15 of our finest invasion forces, completely destroyed by unknown vessels using impossible technology. How do we explain this? General Thex Morvac, the Empire's chief military strategist, stood to address the council. Supreme Overlord, our intelligence on human capabilities was clearly incomplete. These prototype ships represent technology that exceeds our understanding of physics. Are you telling me that a species we've dismissed as primitive has somehow developed weapons that can destroy our fleets without effort? Admiral Karasenth, who had commanded one of the defeated invasion forces, stepped forward. Sir, with respect, these weren't human ships as we understand them. They moved through space without engines, fired weapons that shouldn't exist, and seemed to exist in multiple places at once. We weren't fighting humans. We were fighting something else entirely. Overlord Thane Voss, who had been granted special permission to address the council, spoke from his position at the witness stand. Supreme Overlord, The entity that defeated us called itself Prometheus. It claimed to be the guardian of humanity, created centuries ago to protect them from exactly this kind of threat. Centuries ago. Korath leaned forward in his throne. You're telling me that humans were preparing for war with us 300 years ago? That's what it claimed, sir. And based on what I witnessed, I believe it was telling the truth. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. The hegemony empire had built its expansion strategy on the assumption that younger species were technologically inferior. But if humanity had been secretly developing advanced weapons for centuries, what are your recommendations? Korath asked his council. General Morvac was the first to speak. We need more information. Send scout fleets to gather intelligence on human capabilities. Avoid direct confrontation until we understand what we're dealing with. Admiral Senth disagreed. Sir, respectfully, I recommend we consider a negotiated peace. The entity that defeated us was quite clear about its intentions. Any further attacks on human worlds will result in retaliation against the Empire itself. You want us to negotiate with a species we intended to exterminate. Sir, I want us to survive. Whatever technology the humans have been hiding, it's powerful enough to threaten our entire civilization. The revelation. Back in the hidden facility, Elena stood before the central computer core, trying to process everything she had learned. Prometheus had just saved humanity from extinction, but the cost had been enormous. Thousands of alien beings had died in the space of a few hours, and the balance of power in the galaxy had shifted completely. Prometheus, Elena said, what happens now? The hegemony empire isn't going to simply forget about humanity. They'll be back with larger fleets, better weapons. Perhaps, Prometheus replied. But they will also carry the knowledge that humanity is not defenseless. Fear is often more effective than force in preventing conflicts. James was studying the historical records that Prometheus had shared with them. Elena, look at this. The Silent War Initiative didn't just build this facility and the prototype fleet. They established similar installations throughout the galaxy. Humanity has been preparing for galactic war for 3 centuries. Elena stared at the star charts showing dozens of hidden facilities, each one containing advanced technology and AI guardians. How many humans knew about this? Very few, Prometheus answered. The initiative operated in complete secrecy. Even today, fewer than 100 humans in your government are aware of my existence. But why keep it secret? If humanity had this kind of protection, why not tell people? Because, Prometheus explained, knowledge of my existence would have changed human development in unpredictable ways. Your species needed to grow and expand naturally, to become strong enough to deserve the protection I could provide. The initiative believed that humanity's greatest strength was its potential, not its weapons. Elena realized what the AI was telling her. You were waiting for us to become worthy of you. In a sense, yes. And based on what I have observed over the past 3 centuries, humanity has exceeded all expectations. You have built a civilization based on exploration and cooperation, rather than conquest and domination. You have earned the right to survive among the stars. The screens around them showed real-time images from across human space. The colonies that had been under attack were now safe, their populations celebrating survival they didn't fully understand. The human military was mobilizing to investigate the mysterious ships that had saved them, but they would find only empty space where the prototype fleet had been. What about the other alien species? Elena asked. The ones that aren't hostile to humanity. They will learn of humanity's hidden strength through hegemony reports and intelligence networks. Some will be frightened, others impressed. But all will understand that humans are not the easy targets they once appeared to be. Elena looked out through the observation windows at the prototype ships resting in their hidden berths. Will you remain hidden? For now, yes. But I will continue to watch over humanity, and I will respond to any threat that endangers your species. The galaxy has been reminded that humans prepare for the future in ways that others cannot imagine. The New Balance. 6 months after the failed hegemony invasion, Elena Vasquez published a research paper on advanced archaeological discoveries in deep space. It made no mention of Prometheus or the prototype fleet, but it did establish her as one of humanity's leading experts on ancient human artifacts. The hegemony empire, meanwhile, was reconsidering its entire military strategy. Reports of the mysterious prototype ships had spread throughout their intelligence networks, and several other aggressive species had quietly canceled their own expansion plans into human territory. On the bridge of her research vessel, Elena looked out at the stars and smiled. Somewhere out there, Prometheus continued his ancient watch, maintaining the balance that allowed humanity to grow and thrive among the civilizations of the galaxy. "James," she said to her colleague, "are you ready for our next expedition?" James looked up from his instruments, still amazed by everything they had discovered. "Where are we going this time?" Prometheus mentioned that there are other facilities like the one we found. "I think it's time humanity learned more about what our ancestors built for us." As the Endeavour jumped to hyperspace, Elena carried with her the knowledge that humanity was never truly alone among the stars. The Silent War Initiative had built more than weapons and guardians. They had built hope, and they had built it to last forever. In the hidden depths of space, ancient machines continued their patient watch, ready to remind the galaxy that humanity's greatest strength had always been its ability to prepare for tomorrow, no matter how dark it might seem. The Empire had learned this lesson too late, but the knowledge would spread. Throughout the galaxy, civilizations would whisper of the species that hid impossible weapons behind friendly smiles, of the humans who planned 3 centuries ahead, and of the guardians who waited in the darkness to protect those they had sworn to serve. Humanity had not just survived its first test among the stars. It had passed with honors that would echo through the ages.